see the PHAs that are involved with that and work with them, as we do with the ones all around the country.
We've learned that the owners of Starrett City, the biggest project-based Section 8 contract in the country, of which Trump is part owner, are planning to sell the property. This sale is already rife with controversy as infighting between the ownership is playing out in public. To date, we have no knowledge of how HUD approves the transfer of Section 8 contracts when a property is not FHA insured or HUD held as Starrett City is, because HUD has not published its process.
Ben Carson calmly dismantles Maxine Waters' political attacks in a fiery congressional hearing about Puerto Rico, HUD funding, and Trump's leadership. Watch a Listen Reacts break down how Carson's logic, class, and composure humiliate Waters and expose the Democrats' agenda.
This morning, Trump threatened to abandon Puerto Rico recovery efforts. President Trump served notice Thursday that he may pull back federal relief workers from Puerto Rico, effectively threatening to abandon the U.S. territory amid a staggering humanitarian crisis in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. In a trio of tweets, he wrote, "We cannot keep FEMA, the military, and the first responders who have been amazing in Puerto Rico forever." On Thursday, he sought to shame the territory for its own plight. He tweeted, "Electric and all infrastructure was disaster before hurricanes." So you talked about what you, HUD, is doing in cooperation with, I guess, the administration. Do you agree with the president?
I certainly agree that Puerto Rico is a very important territory. The people from Puerto Rico have contributed greatly to the culture of America.
Well, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is these tweets where the president threatened to abandon Puerto Rico recovery efforts. Do you agree that they should be abandoned, that Puerto Rico should be abandoned?
Well, first of all, as I was saying, Puerto Rico is a very important part of our culture.
No, I know it's important, but I want to know whether or not you agree with the president who's threatening to abandon Puerto Rico recovery efforts.
I think I just said I have no intention of abandoning Puerto Rico. They're a very important part of who we are.
So you don't agree with the president? He tweeted, "Electric and all infrastructure was a disaster before the hurricanes," and sought to shame the territory for its own plight. Do you share that opinion?
I think that our job is to make sure that we take care of the disaster that has occurred.
So you don't agree that it should be abandoned, is that right?
Of course it should not be abandoned.
And you don't think that they should be shamed for its own plight, is that right?
There is no question that there have been a lot of difficulties in Puerto Rico. They ended up
Should they be shamed for its own plight?
In debt. I don't think it is beneficial to go around shaming people in general.
Okay, so I'm glad to hear you don't agree with the president. I have serious concerns about the potential conflicts of interest with regard to HUD funds that are contributing to the profits of multifamily developments owned in part by the president and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Do you think it's appropriate that the president and his family are profiting from federal government funding intended to support low-income families?
If you can give me a specific example, I can address that question.
Well, I want to know if you think it's appropriate that the president and his family are profiting from any federal government funding intended to support low-income families.
I don't think it's appropriate for public officials in general to do that.
Okay. Do you stand by the president's decision not to divest himself of his interest in properties that receive HUD funding?
I think the best thing to do is tell me specifically what you're talking about, and then I can address it.
What have you done to ensure that HUD is properly handling these unprecedented conflicts of interest?
Again, if you can tell me what the specific thing is, I can address it.
These properties that are owned in part by the president or Mr. Kushner are also reportedly in very bad condition. You know Starrett City, don't you?
Yes, I know of it.
For example, which is part owned by the president. You know that, don't you?
I do know that he has
And
a
you know it
small
has
part
received
ownership of
increasingly
that.
declining HUD inspection scores. You know that too, don't you?
Do I know what now?
That it has increasingly declining HUD inspection scores.
I know that there are problems there, yes.
But specifically, do you know that Starrett is a problem, that they have received increasingly declining HUD inspection scores? Do you know that?
I know what is necessary to know as the Secretary of HUD regarding that. Do I know all the numbers about Starrett?
No, I don't want you to know all the numbers. All I want you to know is about Starrett. Starrett, everybody kind of knows a lot about Starrett, and it's partially owned by the president. You are the HUD secretary, and you're in a conflict of interest situation. And I just want to make sure you understand what you are overseeing. Do you know that they have declining HUD inspection scores?
I know that they've been having difficulty.
Okay, so you know that they have not passed inspection. What are you doing to ensure that these HUD residents are not suffering as a result of poor management and lack of investment by its profit-motivated owners?
Well, of course, we oversee the PHAs that are involved with that and work with them, as we do with the ones all around the country.
We've learned that the owners of Starrett City, the biggest project-based Section 8 contract in the country, of which Trump is part owner, are planning to sell the property. This sale is already rife with controversy as infighting between the ownership is playing out in public. To date, we have no knowledge of how HUD approves the transfer of Section 8 contracts when a property is not FHA insured or HUD held as Starrett City is, because HUD has not published its process. HUD has the ability here to insist upon things like robust tenant protections and longer affordability requirements, but the process is frankly unknown. Have you gotten involved with this? It's a big issue.
We have a very well-formulated group that deals with these kinds of issues. And they will deal with this one in the same way that they deal with all such issues. There won't be anything that's done differently here than has been done.
They have not kept you appraised of what they're doing?
Excuse me?
Are you satisfied with the progress that they're making?
They will handle this as they have handled all things.
So you don't know. They have not kept you appraised. You don't know whether or not the process is working. So I would like a full accounting of the process that your department is planning to employ, including all decision points and who will make them should this process move forward. And so I want you to commit to that because, again, this is a big project that's owned partially by the President of the United States, and I want to know how this sale is going to work, what kind of protection these tenants are going to have, and you should keep yourself appraised of it because I'm going to want to know, as others will want to know, how it is progressing.
We'll be happy to work with you and your staff to disseminate that information.
There's one thing that stands out in my mind based on the campaign and looking at what happened in the primaries and things that the president said and how he talked to you and others and demeaned you so much. But one of the things that stands out in my mind so vividly is how he mocked and mimicked a disabled journalist. And so you have, let's say, he has openly mocked disabled people, and HUD's most recent budget proposal, which you supported and defended, proposes a steep 18% cut for Section 8.
Hey everyone, welcome back to A Listen Reacts, the home of truth, common sense, and unapologetic patriotism. If you love America and you're tired of the media twisting everything to attack President Trump, then hit that like button right now. Subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss when we expose the hypocrisy of Washington elites. Let's get into this one because what I just watched is another perfect example of how the left will do anything to smear Trump, no matter how much he's actually done for this country. So, this whole video starts with the media and some Democrats freaking out because President Trump supposedly threatened to abandon Puerto Rico. They're reading tweets, taking them out of context, and acting like Trump doesn't care about the island or its people. But let's be honest here. The president was pointing out something that every serious person already knows. Puerto Rico's infrastructure was a mess long before Hurricane Maria. The electric grid was failing, the local government was drowning in debt, and corruption had eaten through the island's institutions. Trump didn't cause that. He inherited it. Now, instead of talking about accountability or how local leaders mismanaged funds for decades, the left tries to spin it as Trump being cruel or heartless. They completely ignore that FEMA, the military, and American taxpayers were pouring billions into the recovery efforts. Trump wasn't saying he'd leave them to die. He was saying America can't endlessly babysit corrupt systems that refuse to fix themselves. That's not cruelty, that's leadership. It's called fiscal responsibility. Then we have HUD Secretary Ben Carson being grilled, like he's on trial. The Democrats keep badgering him, trying to get him to admit that he disagrees with the president. They want to make it seem like there's division, like even Trump's own people don't support him. But Carson handles it professionally, calm, measured, and refusing to play into their political traps. The left hates that. They can't stand when someone in the administration stays composed and refuses to give them the soundbite they're looking for. And of course, they drag Jared Kushner and Trump's business interests into it, accusing them of profiting off low-income housing. That's classic Washington distraction. They want Americans to believe that every successful businessperson in politics is corrupt, while ignoring the real corruption that's been festering in Congress for decades. These people lecture about conflicts of interest while owning stock in defense companies that benefit from the very wars they vote for. Spare me the moral outrage. Then the hearing takes another turn. They bring up Starrett City, a housing complex partially owned by Trump. They try to paint it as some scandal because it had low inspection scores. But let's get real. The housing crisis in America didn't start in 2016. The Democrats have been running urban housing programs for half a century, and most of them are disasters. They've thrown taxpayer money into these cities for years with zero accountability. And when Trump owns something, suddenly he's responsible for every broken window and leaky pipe. Please. Next, the Democrats get even more desperate. They bring up that old clip, you know the one, where they claim Trump mocked a disabled journalist. They use that as a political weapon, trying to connect it to HUD budget cuts for disability programs. That's what the left does best. Emotional manipulation. They don't care about facts. They don't care that Trump was mocking a reporter who changed his story, not his disability. They just recycle that same false narrative because it makes him look cruel. Here's the truth. Trump has done more for the American people, including the disabled, than most of these career politicians combined. Jobs for disabled Americans hit record highs under his administration before COVID. The economy was booming. Independence was rising. But the left doesn't want empowerment. They want dependency. They want people to rely on government handouts so they can keep them voting blue forever. That's the real motive behind their outrage. And you know what stood out to me most? Ben Carson's composure. He didn't lash out, he didn't take the bait. He stayed focused on the mission. Serving the people. This man has spent his life saving children's lives as a neurosurgeon, and now he's serving his country. And these politicians sit there trying to lecture him on compassion? Give me a break. At the end of the day, this video shows exactly why Trump supporters stay loyal. We see through the noise. We see through the fake outrage. The president fights for America first, and that scares the establishment to death. Puerto Rico, HUD, Section 8, the budget, they'll twist every single thing just to destroy him. But all they do is expose themselves as the hypocrites they are. So if you're tired of the lies, if you still believe in strength, truth, and accountability, hit that like button and share this video with a friend. Subscribe to Listen Reacts, because here, we don't follow the media narrative. We follow the facts. And the fact is,